Good morning, Facebook. How is everybody today? We're going to talk about a great subject, but first, I am Kim Kelly, Service and Parts Director, Audi Hampton. Kevin Krantz, Shop Foreman, Mercedes-Benz. Larry Snyder, Shop Foreman for Audi. And so the dog days of summer are approaching.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing some warm weather, and we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. I know I love it. I think everybody loves it. Got to have it. Can't live without it. Air conditioning.
Absolutely.
Air conditioning. And, okay, so is there more to it than just blowing cold?
Oh, heck yeah.
All right. Well,
All right, so
there you go.
I'm going to start.
Yeah, go ahead.
We'll bounce it back and forth.
Sure.
All right, so basically, our air conditioning systems are, they're now considered climate control systems because they're multifaceted. I'm going to start off by talking about our heated and cooled seats and how they're tied into the climate control system. So one issue that I see a lot, I think that a lot of people are under the impression that when we say cooled seats, that the seats themselves are actually air conditioned. Basically saying, for example, that you're going to turn your ventilated seat on and it's going to blow out cold air. Okay, well, I'm not saying that there's no vehicle on the planet that can do that, but our seats aren't actually air conditioned, they're ventilated. And they are heated. In the wintertime, if you turn the heat on, the seat does have a heating element in it, and the seat itself physically gets hot. But in the summertime, or anytime you turn on the cooled function, or the ventilated function of the seat's actually, like I said, it's ventilated. It's not air conditioned. If you think about it like this, okay, so let's say that you have the air conditioning on in the vehicle, and you have cold air coming out of the vents. Cold air being dense, cold air drops, hot air rises. Hot air being less dense rises, and cold air drops. So as that cold air drops onto your lap or your chest or onto your body, the seat actually pulls air around your body through the seat and out the bottom. So you're actually getting air pulled around your skin. It's sort of like having a breeze, on a hot day.
I really like a cool
Yeah,
seat.
it's very nice. But the situation becomes this: if your air conditioning system, if the car is, okay, so you get in the vehicle and the car's 100 degrees inside, or 120, or even it could be 140 degrees sometimes. I've seen it that hot. And you turn on your ventilated seats, you're drawing hot air across your body. It's not going to feel that great. It's going to feel like nothing, or darn near nothing. On the other hand, when you get cold air blowing out of the vents, that cold air is coming out of the vents. The air inside the vehicle could be 100 degrees or 120 degrees, and metal surfaces could be 120, 140 degrees. But that cold air is coming right at you. And as that cold air drops, it's drawn through the seat around your body. Now it feels like you have air-conditioned seats. Well, sure enough, it does feel really good. But they're ventilated. It doesn't blow out, it draws in. And it draws in the cool air coming out of the vents. That being said, if the performance of your AC system is down, the outlet temperature is warmer than it should be, then the function of your seats also going to be down. They're going to feel a little warmer than normal. If you first get in the vehicle, you turn the air conditioning on. Everybody knows you first turn the air conditioning on, the air coming out of the vents is hot. Obviously, that hot air is not going to do you much good. So the air being drawn through the seat doesn't going to feel like a whole lot. So they work in tandem. They're not, they're not separate from each other. They work in tandem. So if you don't have cold air coming out of the vents, or you have extremely hot air in the vehicle, they're not going to feel like they're doing a whole lot. And then over time, it gets colder and colder and colder. You'll find yourself turning it back. So I just wanted to get that out there. That, like I said, the seats are ventilated, not air conditioned, and they're heated. Sure enough, heated in the winter, separate from the normal heating system. They are heated, but they're not air conditioned. They're ventilated. Just want to throw that out there.
But it is a really cool feeling when they are cool.
When everything's working right.
Oh, when it works correctly and everything's working in tandem, it's great.
But
it's fantastic.
It's surprising the first time you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
The very first time you feel a ventilated seat, it's kind of like, oh, what was that?
Yeah. Especially if you have a skirt on. I don't wear a skirt, but if I did, or a kilt, oh, that'd be awesome. Now with a kilt, that would be something.
We had the same thing. Mercedes has the same thing, except ours, they're blowing the other direction. So we actually blow air from inside the seat outward.
Okay.
So, and the same issue is they are just little bitty motors, and it's designed to move the air. And it's really when the vehicle is hot inside, it's 140, 150, 160 degrees.
Absolutely, it can be that.
And the seat can be extremely hot. So the fan moving air across the seat definitely lowers the temperature fairly rapidly. So, and that's what it was designed for initially. So, my AC doesn't work when it's hot outside.
Right.
So, when we get into a car, the interior of the car, as we said, could be as much as 150 degrees, when you turn your AC on, a lot of people think it should be instant cold air. And in reality, it can go 2 to 3 minutes, depending on what is exactly going on and the conditions that the car is under. So just an idea, obviously the engine is started, the AC compressor is turning, the refrigerant is building pressure, and there are some controls within the system that regulate the amount of freon that is going through the evaporator, which is your heat exchanger inside the vehicle. So some of the things they use to help speed up the cooling process would be to actually close the fresh air door, which is another component on the climate control system, so that you're using just recirculated air. So instead of having to heat and take the moisture out of the outside air, which probably is very hot and very humid, it's able to squeeze the moisture out of the inside air, and it recirculates it, and pretty soon the moisture is gone, and now the rapid cooling can affect. So air is blown over the evaporator, and it's the actual boiling of the refrigerant within the evaporator that causes the actual temperature or heat exchange, hence the word heat exchanger or radiator. Passes, takes the heat out or removes it. And that's what gives you your cooling effect. And so if the air is super hot, it may take a few times to go through, which 2 to 3 minutes, you can start feeling the cold air. Mm-hmm. So we get lots of complaints about the AC not working, or it takes too long to cool. In some cases, the car just give it a minute or two to cool. The other thing that we see a lot, like all newer cars, we have lots of controls, buttons, settings on the climate control. I had gotten into a car this morning that they had put the defroster, or directed the air to the windshield, a defroster setting with the AC on. So the inside air blowing on the climate control is actually blowing to the windshield. So the outside of the windshield was all fogged up from the cold air being blown on it. So having the air conditioning set to the wrong position or wrong setting is another biggie that we see. So love the the oven commercial, set it and forget it.
Yeah.
So if there is an auto button on the Mercedes, I'm sure you've probably got something similar too. Once you find that happy temperature that you like it at, 70, 71, or if you like it colder, 68, dial in the temperature, hit the auto button, and it'll all do everything for us, right? So if it's hot outside and it's hot inside, it will automatically go into what we call recirc, or closing the fresh air door. It will automatically go to max AC to try to get the inside of the vehicle cooler. And then once it actually does start to cool, then it'll regulate. So.
You have a question?
There's
a question.
I personally, does revving the engine, does this do anything to help your AC or heat, do anything faster, getting those RPMs?
Not
going?
really.
Okay.
Not really. Make you feel better, maybe.
Make you feel like you're doing something, and
There was a time that did make a difference, because our vehicles aren't like this anymore. But there was a time when the engine cooling fan was driven by the engine. It wasn't electric. It was mechanically driven. So when you rev the engine up, the airflow across the radiator and across the AC condenser would increase and would make the AC system a little bit more efficient. That increased airflow across the condenser would make a difference. So on some systems, there was a time that by bringing the engine speed up, the AC system, sure enough, would get colder quicker. That is true. But our systems don't work like that anymore. They're computer controlled and they're regulated differently. So at an idle, or whether you're at 2,500 RPMs or 3,000, there's not a whole lot of difference. You still may get a little bit better performance traveling down the highway due to the actual wind speed, the air speed coming through the condenser. That may make a difference. But other than that, sitting still, revving the engine, not so much. That's not a big thing anymore. But there was at one time, absolutely. That was definitely a thing.
Well, when it does go into the Eco Start Stop, you will get a reduced fan, won't you? I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, we're actually going to transition this into the auto
We'll-
start stop.
We'll
We're
beat
gonna
the
transition.
AC up just a little
Yeah.
bit more because this
Right.
is obviously the season. So back to the auto mode, if you have questions, obviously come see us, but I'm always surprised at the number of cars I get into, and the climate control has got all kinds of weird individual settings, and for efficient AC cooling, auto mode by far is the best way to go. So
Set it and
dial,
forget it.
you got it.
Like the rotisserie.
Yeah, that's it.
it.
That's it. Set the temperature like, hit the auto button, and it will do a fantastic job on its own if everything is working correctly.
Okay, so let me just speak about one thing. Let me just speak about the recirculation feature. Sometimes it's called max recirc. You actually see like a circle with an arrow on it, right? That's actually the recirc in a lot of cases, not every vehicle, I don't guess. But think about it like this. You get into the vehicle's 140 or 150 degrees. Figure you're drawing the blower motor, which is actually creating the airflow that you feel. The blower motor has an inlet and an outlet. So it's drawing air in, blowing air out, okay? So where does it get the air? Where does it come from? Where's the inlet path? So the inlet path can be inside the vehicle, it can be outside the vehicle. So if you get in the vehicle and the vehicle's 140 or 150 degrees, that's hotter than it is outside, unless I don't know where you live, but where I live, I wouldn't live there. But so outside it's gonna be 90 some degrees. So that's the air you want to draw in when you first start the vehicle, if it's a really hot day. So you wouldn't want to be in recirculation mode at that point because it's 150 degrees inside the car. Why would you want to draw in 150 degree air, blow it across the evaporator? It's not going to do a whole lot. It's still going to come out really, really hot. So at a point, it goes from outside air to recirculated air. Now, to add to that, so initially you'd start off with outside air being drawn into the blower motor, comes across the evaporator. The evaporator temperature, the outlet temperature starts to drop. Like I said, so the air coming out, it's dropping, literally dropping towards the floor because it's more dense. The hot air is going towards the ceiling. So, therefore, the recirculation is done close to the floor. The inlet for the recirculation is close to the floor because that's where it's cold. But it's not cold there initially. So what you'll find is that to start off with, it's going to be outside air, and you may hear a difference in fan noise. And what's happening is that it's going from outside air, which is going to be much more quiet, to drawing air from inside the interior, which is going to open the door. You're going to hear the air going into the blower motor, which is going to raise the noise level. It might even give you a little bit more volume coming out the vents. Sometimes you actually get a little bit of a volume increase. So, and like I said, the systems are working automatically. So what it's going to do is, as it senses the temperature dropping inside the interior, it'll open a recirc door and allow cooler air to go into the blower motor. So now you have cooler air in the blower motor, cooler air then being blown across the evaporator. Therefore, outlet temperatures go down. So it's all in relation. So it's the recirc door is not something you want to command on when you first get in the vehicle because it's going to be too hot in there for that. So if you're commanding, if you're overriding, don't do that until it's run for a while and the actual air can. When you feel the air conditioning coming out nice and cold, turn it on recirc. That'll be fine. But don't do it initially because the inside temperature you don't want to draw that in. So that's why I wanted to put that out there as far as the recirc door, and you don't always want it on recirc. So anyway, that's why.
Well, like anything, right? You can't leave it on recirc permanently because if worst case scenario you have an exhaust leak in the car, it would never vent. So it'll run, yours probably the same way. Ours runs about 15 minutes in recirc mode, then it'll open back up again. So again, that's back to set the temperature, hit the auto button, it'll do its thing.
Yep.
Works
So,
great. I love that auto button.
So our systems, there are since this is an automatic climate control system, it has to have sensors all over the place for various reasons. But some of the big sensors are going to be temperature related. So there's outside temperature or ambient air temperature. You've got interior temperature. We have temperature sensors on Audis, and pretty much every single vent. If it's got a vent coming out and you can feel air flowing through it, we've got temperature sensors stuck in it. Whether it's going to the rear, it's coming out on the floor, we got vents everywhere. We got temperature sensors galore. But we also have other sensors, like, for example, we have a generic term would be a sun load sensor, where we're actually monitoring the intensity of the sun. Not only the interior temperature, of course we want to know what the interior temperature is, we want to know that, but also the sun load. For example, you can be 120 degrees in your car, but a cloudy day, there's not a whole lot of sun. Well, as we all know, the sun itself is incredible. So we have actually a sun load sensor. It actually measures it's called solar irradiance. It's measured in watts per meter square. So it literally, you'll find them on the dash, sometimes little round, little circles in different places on the dash. Not always used for that, but that's what ours look like. And it's measuring sun load. So basically, it's an automatic climate control system measuring mostly temperatures, but it also measures other things. It's very smart, extremely smart. So,
Well, that's all part of the auto because it takes all of these factors in place, right?
Yep.
If it's hotter, sun is shining, it may kick the blower speed up.
absolutely.
Maybe pulses the fresh air door more. All kinds of things. So, anyways, our new climate control systems are quite elaborate.
Yep,
Front,
absolutely.
front passenger. Then you got the rear AC, and then some vehicles are equipped with the AC, rear AC system for the third row seats. So there's lots of stuff going on.
Absolutely. So just as far as a maintenance part, there's not much these days that the customer's going to do as far as AC system maintenance.
Not really.
But the one thing you definitely need to check and replace is your cabin air filter. So in that air stream that we're talking about for the blower motor, it's got an inlet and an outlet, and the air stream flows through your cabin air filter, so that all the air coming through the blower motor into the interior is filtered. If that becomes restricted, as it gets full of pollen and dirt and dust and whatever it fills up with leaves, gets filled up with all kinds of stuff, the volume of air is going to go down. It's going to go down, down, down. Not only that, another side effect is that as you restrict the airflow, the blower motor, the electric motor, has to work harder and it runs hotter. So as it heats up, the air coming off of the blower motor is hotter also. So you don't want to restrict that airflow stream. You want to have as much air volume coming out as you can. You want it to be clean, and you sure don't want the blower motor heating it up. So that's the one thing you can do. Check it, replace it. It's something, it's not that expensive. It's worth doing.
It's covered in our services. That's a standard component.
It's something you definitely
every
do.
other service.
Even if you have an older model, and you're paying for your service, you're not in that situation. It's something you want to think about. When we've pulled them out, I'm sure. Good Lord.
Especially after right now they come out yellow.
They'll just packed full of dirt or leaves, and then at some point the restriction causes the blower motor to fail. The actual electric motor gets extra hot, so it doesn't last as long. So it'll actually burn up. So a lot of times we'll come in, a vehicle needs a blower motor, we pull the blower motor out, pull out the cabin air filter, and it's like, it's easy to see what happened here. Cabin air filter is clogged up, blower motor's failed. And that's all of a sudden just became an expensive repair, right?
And you don't think about it. You don't think that a filter can cause that problem. A lot of people don't think about that. So
absolutely. Yeah, like if you happen to hear the blower motor and it sounds real loud, and it sounds like it's on high speed, but you're not feeling a whole lot, that cabin air filter is probably restricted. Something's going on there for sure.
Good possibility.
Is that a part that's easy to access on most models?
It can be
for the most part.
Yeah, the average person could access it. I think you'll find it is in your owner's manual to show you how to access it. It can be a little difficult to squeeze under there and get to it.
Are a little more difficult than others.
Yeah, but you don't have to disassemble the vehicle in most cases. I'm not going to say.
What
I've
if
never
you're
seen
doing your
vehicles,
services here? On Mercedes, it gets changed every other service.
Ours too.
Same schedule. Yep.
Yeah.
Little things that you get that you don't know.
They probably don't even think about it. They probably don't even think about it.
And they're great. If you have allergies, that cuts back on the pollen and the allergens coming through the vents, dust, mold. Huge,
some
huge
people like to
improvement.
change them more often.
Than
every other.
certainly.
Yeah, they're great.
Change them at every
Twice a year.
service.
Honestly, I'm a firm believer. They're great. Absolutely. So let's we're gonna run out of time. Let's transition into what I want to talk about is our auto start stop feature. Basically what we're speaking about is when you come into a stop and the engine shuts off, people have gotten used to it. A lot of people used to complain about it. Kevin and I were talking about that earlier. It's like, God, this thing drives me crazy. Every time I turn around, I feel like the car's stalled. But people become used to it. The idea is turn the engine off when you're idling, get a lot better fuel economy. There's no sense in sitting there running the engine when you're sitting still. Okay, now, there's some times that you're going to find that the engine doesn't shut off. And as the climate changes outside, you'll find there's been a change. Something has changed. All of a sudden, my car's just not shutting off like it used to. You shut off all the time. Well, now it's like no, not so much. Sometimes even never. So let's explain a few things, how it's tied into your climate control system. So, for example, let's say that you get in your vehicle and you command on your climate control. We'll start here. You command max cold. You put it all the way down on low. All right, not a temperature setting, just max cold, whatever that might be. What you are telling the climate control module is, I want you to blow the coldest air possible nonstop. I don't care if there's ice cubes hanging in here. I want cold air nonstop. Think about that. If that's the case, the car cannot shut off. If the engine shuts off at any time, the AC compressor quits turning. If it quits turning, the air conditioning system starts getting warmer immediately. If you're commanding, I want max cold all the time, you can't shut the car off. The car can't turn off. You've just said to the climate control system, do not shut the engine off because I want it to be cold all the time. Okay, so if you have it on max low, on our system actually says low, or max cold, or whatever it might say, on an Audi, if you have it on low and low, it's not going to turn off. Never. Okay, so here's something else I've run into. Let's say you have rear climate control. You have front and rear. So on the front, you've got the two automatic temperature controls synced to, let's say, 70 degrees. So you come in, you say, well, I got it on 70. It's cold as it can be in the car. It's still not turning off. When I hop in the back seat and I look at the rear temperature control and it says low and low. Well, you're commanding, you're still wanting the coldest temperature possible. You're driving the vehicle, what you don't realize, somebody in the back set it on low. So whatever temperature you set it to, if you set it to 70 degrees front, 70 degrees in the rear, once the interior temperature gets down to 70 degrees, the engine can shut off. But not until. So if you set it on 75 degrees, it's not that hot outside, it'll shut off frequently because you can reach that temperature easily. You can get to 75, it's 80 degrees outside, you get to 75, look at each split, the engine will shut off regular. You set that on 65 and it's 90 degrees outside, it's going to take a long time to shut off, especially if the car's been sitting out in the sun all day.
Cooking.
So you might drive it all the way home for 45 minutes, it never shuts off. Well, because it never got there. You know, so the colder you command, the longer it takes. If you command max cold, it will never turn off, whether it's in the front or the rear. So that's one thing to look at as far as climate control.
And distance is another factor. I personally don't drive but 6 miles to work. And just like you said, the AC's blasting away, the blower motor's on, auxiliary fan's on. The battery doesn't have 100% charge. And during the summertime, I never experienced in my vehicle Eco to shut off. And I understand why. It's, the battery never really gets a full charge. So if it doesn't get a full charge, it won't shut off. So just under the conditions that the vehicle is currently operating under.
Yep.
Not that there's necessarily an issue.
Yep. So another thing with ours, if you're in the vehicle and you command windshield defrost, let's say you're sitting stopped and the windshield starts to fog up a little bit. And you command defrost, the engine's going to start back immediately. It'll start right up every time. Other things, if you change the temperature setting, let's say that you're sitting there and you're like, boy, it's starting to go, you feel as though I'd like a little more cold air, so you turn the temperature down, the engine's going to start back up right away. If the temperature setting that you've asked for, let's say 70 degrees, if the interior temperature starts coming up, just normally, then it's going to restart the engine. Just want to get it back down to that 70 again. So as what I'm saying is, as the temperature changes outside and as you adjust your temperature settings, the activity of the auto start stop is going to change. It's going to be more frequent more frequent or less frequent, or it's going to change for sure, and you should expect that. Absolutely, you should expect it. So
I think we're running out of time.
Yep, I think that's another.
I think we're probably out of time. We were out of time probably like 10 minutes ago, because we need our own TV show, guys. All right. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, anything for these guys, anything for me, put it in the comments and we will get back to you. Or you can always come by and see our smiling faces. We'll be happy to look at it for you. We can show you how to set that auto, make sure it's perfect for you, and that everything functions the way it should. We can also check or change your cabin filter for more efficiency.
Yeah, ask questions, because there's a lot more to it. I mean, Kevin and I were just trying to, we're basically just, shooting from the hip here, talking about things that come to our mind.
Stuff.
So by all means, I'm sure we're missing plenty. There's a lot more to it, and we'd like to elaborate and be here for 3 hours. We probably could do it, no problem, but we don't have that much time.
We got lots to do.
So if you want to know something, you really do, honestly, there's no problem at all. By all means, call and leave a message or put a comment or whatever. As long as we know that's been asked, we'll give you the answer. It's no problem.
Yeah,
Happy
we'd
to
be
do it.
happy if you guys pick the content.
Yep. Happy to do it.
All right, everybody have a great day. We'll see you next Thursday. Bye.
Bye.